I wasn't a delivery person, but for the right price I can be. So I was working as a valet at the Hilton Hotel. It was a Saturday afternoon, and this decently attractive lady shows up in a cab with no luggage and checks in. This is a common occurrence. However, we know that if a super nice Escalade shows up in a few minutes, then the lady is for this a man thing. Anyways, he shows up and gives us a 20 for leaving his car up front. 2 hours later, he calls down, asks us to pick up some food, barbecue. Phil's Barbecue. He orders $300 worth of food and I say I'll gladly go pick it up because we do anything for our guests, right? I go to the room to grab the cash, and when that door opens, just spicy musk and sweat pours from the room. The lady is stark naked with cum still dripping off her face. The guy looks at me and says, "Here is $500. Get the food and bring it to the room as your knock once and leave. Keep the change." I gladly took the cash, got the food and brought it back to his room as your knock once and got the fluff out. About an hour after that, the lady came down, looked me in the eyes and winked. She asked if I had a cigarette. I didn't, so she walked off the property. The gentleman came down after, tipped another 20 and took off. This became a regular thing, and he was known as Mr. Barbecue Comeback. I worked for 4 years as a FedEx delivery driver. I went to go deliver a box to this one house that was on a moderately busy street. Just as I was going up the driveway, I noticed at the corner of my eye something small moving at a distance of around 25 feet. I looked and it was a baby of about 2 years old in diapers getting ready to cross the street. I yelled at the baby, "Stop," and it actually did. I told him to come to where I was and had him sit on the lawn while I rang the doorbell of the house I was delivering to. A lady answered the door and I asked her if she was missing a baby. She was shocked and I explained that there was a baby about to cross the street and is now on her front lawn. She immediately stood by the child while I went to 2 other houses asking if they were missing a child. The police were called. After waiting for about 15 minutes, we heard a woman's voice yell, "Oh, there you are." And we saw a woman in her late 60s walk up to the kid, and a baby immediately wanted to be picked up by this woman. She thanked us profusely and said her daughter would kill her if she found out what happened. The police arrived and everything was sorted out. What happened? The grandma left the garage door open and the baby got out from a door left ajar. The baby walked a distance of about 2 blocks before he got to where I was and was actually stepping down from the curb onto a moderately busy street. TLDR. Went to deliver a box. Saw a baby trying to cross the street. I delivered produce to people's houses during graveyard hours and we would get the same customers weekly. On our Wednesday nights, I would make deliveries out to houses up in the mountains in the middle of the night. Always had to deliver to a customer that just has a bunch of mannequins that were outfitted lined up in front of their house. Nothing necessarily happened, but I was always scared as hell delivering to that house. Oh yeah, and I've had a gun pulled on me before delivering to those secluded houses late at night. I was a process server for about a year, mostly for people not paying bills or child support, so I frequently served the same people multiple times. This one lady always answered the door in a robe open in the front, acting like there was nothing going on, at least 3 or 4 times. Not flirty or anything, just boobs and bush for all to see. I had another lady ask me if there was anything she could do to not have me serve her while stroking my arm. I served papers to a couple that I knew previously. They were regulars at a restaurant I worked at and were great tippers. We knew each other by name. It wasn't awkward at all and they invited me in and asked how I was. I went back 2 weeks later to serve them again and the wife broke down crying, begging me not to serve them, monsieur, that was rough. And finally, I had a guy at a construction company punch me in the face and block me from leaving. He said he was going to call the cops on me for trespassing if I didn't take the papers back. I laughed, took out my phone and called the cops. I've never seen a guy move his foot faster than after he heard me say, "I have been assaulted and am being held against my will at blah 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 construction, and my assaulter would like to talk to you." Hold the phone to the douche. Edit. One more. I had to serve a doctor with an order to appear, which has to be served to him as opposed to a subserve, which is where I can leave it with a secretary or roommate. In my experience, doctors are the worst to serve. The document had a check to reimburse for documents they had to provide at an earlier time. I told the office manager that I had to deliver the check to Dr. So-and-so without telling her I was actually serving him at the same time. She is annoyed and goes and gets the doctor out of surgery to come take delivery of the check. In the waiting room, he came out in scrubs, holding his hands up to not get them dirty. I then served him the papers and he was super cool about it. The office manager looked like she wanted to kill me. Shipper. But the UPS chick's reaction was priceless. Worked for a company that made X-ray equipment and needed to ship some testing equipment. Packaged it. Insured it. Waiting for UPS. Driver asked why thing was insured for $35,000. It was because it was a preserved human head, used for calibrating X-ray equipment. UPS driver did not want to take it. Front yard had a 2-foot-tall wire fence, which I thought was weird. But whatever. Run up to the door. Drop the package off. And as I am walking back to my truck, I see a bit of movement out of the corner of my eye. I look down and there is a massive tortoise maybe a foot or two away from me. It scared the garbage out of me. Who has a tortoise pet hanging out in their front yard? Seasonal UPS worker here. Got flagged down by an old guy wearing only a robe and no shoes. Seemingly came out of nowhere. Wasn't sure what was up. It was maybe 6 a.m. so still dark and my butt wasn't stopping. He catches me about a block away delivering to a house. I apologize like I was in a hurry and didn't see him. He asks me if I'm going to hell, and in the awkward silence hands me a fruitcake and a thick stack of evangelical religious literature. This happened to a friend of mine. They drove down a driveway that was at least 2 miles long and very muddy. Once she made it to the end, she saw a few turkeys that chased her all the way to the door. She noticed that there was also a very large cat sleeping on the roof of the house. Then, when the man opened the door, 3 pugs ran out to greet her. As she was walking back to her car, 2 baby goats trotted out of the woods and watched her leave. Not too odd, but I found it hilarious. I'm not a delivery person, but my BF was laying under the aircon in just his boxer shorts on a crazy hot day when a delivery arrived. He answered the door and the guy took one look, pointed, and my BF realized his junk was hanging out for all to see. I bet that delivery guy had a fun day. FedEx delivery driver here. Delivered to a retirement mobile home in Vegas one time. Had an overweight, tall old man open the door. Had a goatee with a bunch of yellow crumbs on it. Immediately told me, "You look like you would be delicious if eaten." I laughed nervously and gave him his package. Started calling me Prince Charming and handsome after he saw how nervous I got. Garbage. Not me, but a friend worked at some Amazon warehouse packaging center for a while and I asked him that exact question. He said the Freddy Krueger sexual mask was probably the weirdest, like it was explicitly labeled as happy fun time accessory. I delivered pizza and I am black. Once I delivered to this house and as I am walking up I hear a young kid say, "The pizza man is an." Quote. I hear this voice from inside and I'm just blown away. The adult comes outside and gets the pizza. No apology. No addressing the situation. Just a quick transaction. I guess I didn't see anything weird. But I heard a really racist kid. I am not one. However, I once opened the door to get my delivery and had, unbeknownst to me, yogurt on my chin. A few weeks later the same dude delivering me my stuff is back and I open the door with porridge on my chin. I am not an elderly lady, but I sure as hell seem to eat like one. Waiting for him to come next time, wondering what food will get stuck on my chin again. A woman who took her package inside and threw it away. I deliver for a competitor to Uber Eats. I had a customer once who buzzed me up to his office. He was face down on what I can only assume was a folding massage table. 'Cause it would be weird to have a massage table in a CPA office. With a towel wrapped around his midsection. The masseuse grabbed his trousers per his request and he couldn't find his wallet, so he rolled over to look in his desk drawer and had a raging harden. Didn't seem to give a single fluff. I was door-to-door salesman, so I guess you could argue I was delivering a pyramid scheme to unsuspecting homeowners. A man, sporting an erection, with only abused and yellowing tidy whities partially shielding me, ran out of his front doorway and down throughout his dead garden towards me. All I heard was my partner yelling for me to get running. So as I turned, I see this crazed old white man leaping off his lawn onto the road, hightailing it towards me. I ran by a flock of seagulls. I realized when I didn't notice a guy completing the transaction was in boxers the whole time. It was time to find a new job. I work at the UPS store. And one day I had a very old gentleman come in and attempt to ship an antique shotgun. Normally, that would be totally okay. But it was when he pulled the grenade out of the gun case I became slightly concerned. Also, people try to cover up the smell of weed with coffee grounds. It doesn't at work. So, years ago, I ran a snack route that involved me picking the orders out of the back of a box truck before making my delivery. My route was in some of the not-so-great areas of Arizona. Hatcher Road, Sunny Slope. One day, I'm picking an order for a customer and a crackhead lady jumps at the doorway of the back and just starts dancing, if you want to call it that. Anyway, she babbles something incoherent at me and starts lifting up her shirt. No, I'm good, thanks, is all I say to her. To which she just storms off. Moments later, I'm in my customer's store and that same woman sticks her head in the doorway and babbles something else. Incoherently, the store owner says, "Hey, get the fluff out of here. You know you're not supposed to be around here." Never saw that woman again. Not a delivery driver, but from our delivery driver. Our office manager was ordering Ajax cleaner for our cleaning crew. When the box came, one of the bottles had busted open and dust was all over inside and leaking out the box a little. The delivery driver told her something was leaking from it and she was very paranoid and said, "Gosh, I hope it isn't anthrax." Delivery driver turned white for a few seconds until she continued with her next statement. "Oh, I know what it is. I ordered some Ajax powder cleaner and one must have opened by accident." Never saw someone look so relieved in their life. Used to work delivering food overnight in Texas. One time I was delivering at a Jack in the Box and while unloading, the whole crew, which is pretty much 2 to 3 ppl overnight, decided to take a break. So they locked down the store, drive-thru still open, and went to their cars and smoked weed while watching the drive-thru line just get backed up to the street. Funniest thing I ever seen. Was a courier for a while, so this was a pickup. Not necessarily the delivery side, had to pick up from this address an hour away. Another courier had been trying to pick up from them for 4 hours and it's now 9 at night. Walk in and the first thing I see is a deceased elderly lady with the top of her head cut off and her torso cracked open. Had to wait for 30 minutes in there for the package to be ready, only to find out I have to deliver her brain to the airport. TLDR. Waited 30 minutes with a dead lady, whose chest was opened up so I could deliver her brain. Delivering a package down a long rural driveway on a route I wasn't familiar with for the USPS. As I'm walking from the vehicle, roughly 8 turkeys came out from behind a large shed and started to surround me. I felt like Chris Pratt in Jurassic World as I slowly backed towards my vehicle. I was not a package delivery person, but I delivered food for a Japanese restaurant in college. This is one of my favorite weird interactions in a delivery that I have talked about here before. I was sent to this house with an order of a steak hibachi and a couple of sushi rolls that added up to something like $19.60. I liked to call before I got to a place, just to give people a bit of a heads up. So by the time I got to the door, it was already open. In the doorway stood a chubby kid, about 9 or 10 years old, that reminded me a lot of the kid from Bad Santa, but without the curly hair. I tell him the total as I pass off his food. He hands me a $20 bill, and with a straight face he smugly says, "Keep the change, pal." Immediately after, he closes the door, and I stood there for a second trying to process what just happened. When I got back to my car, I noticed the time and realized it was way too early for that kid to be home from school. I couldn't help but laugh at the whole situation. No wonder he sounded a bit cocky when he told me that I could keep the 40 cents in change. This kid probably faked being sick so he could stay from school, and was probably in there watching TV or playing video games while eating sushi and feeling like a big shot. I know I would have at that age. A dildo the girth of a Coke and length of 2 cans stacked up. I work at a restaurant near a local mall in my town, so we get all sorts of people, often a lot of homeless people. One day when I was up front taking orders, when these 3 gentlemen enter, 2 in suits and the other in rags, but they all walked in together. The man in rags has a chicken on shoulder, while the other 2 men are in suits. The chicken man tries to convince me that he's a magician and that the 2 men he walks in with are gonna buy him some custard. The 2 men are obviously uncomfortable, but can't help but to laugh at the whole thing. Eventually I take their order, and the men felt obligated to buy him custard. But technically we're not allowed to have any animals that aren't service animals in the building. Nor would I force these men to buy another person's food. So our manager intervened and told the guy to wait outside. She goes out for a bit and talks to him. Monsieur, during this whole time the chicken remains still on this man's shoulder, and my manager ends up giving him custard for free. TLDR. A homeless guy came into my job with chicken on his shoulder. Here's the only pic I could get, lol. Homeless magician. https imager.com/gallery/ioes2. Edit. Link. Delivering pizza on night, and it was just 3 kids, like possibly 13 years old, just playing on an Xbox. They even paid with exact change, and an exact 10% tip. I was delivering sandwiches for Jimmy John's one night and found the apartment. 2 very drunk, half-naked girls opened the door. They paid for the food, giggling the whole time, and asked if I wanted to come in. They were hanging all over me. One of them kissed me on the cheek. Pretty sure they wanted one of those porno-like delivery man scenes to go down. Had to turn them down, as I was, and still am, taken, and my girlfriend worked at the same store and was there waiting for me. Sorry ladies, only so much of me to go around. Less than, stud greater than. I'll tell the delivery guy about this thread when he gets here, so he can tell you guys all about what he's going to witness. Delivering to a trailer park. 2 German shepherds pissed as hell. I'm there tied to the garbage T-porch attached to trailer. Shrek-sized woman comes out wearing a dress that looks like it's made from a shower curtain. Woman proceeds to reel in the 2 shepherds on their chains as if she caught a couple of gar. I'm trying to yell at her that I'll just leave it on the car so she can grab it after I leave. She continues to reel in the pissed-off dogs, and her tits pop out of the shower curtain in the struggle. Actually looked like that little comic where dude tells chick to calm her tits and her tits are flying in the air while she says no. Almost died laughing in my truck. I used to deliver pizza. One time I was making a delivery at an apartment complex. As I was walking by, I could hear trumpet playing on the ground level, which was recessed, so the windows were roughly level with the sidewalk. The guy was playing quite well. The curtains were open enough to where I could see him, and I couldn't help but look down. As it turned out, he was playing totally naked and was recording himself on a video camera. I deliver furniture and had a mattress for a girl at a university dormitory. Her father was there. And when we went to lift her old bed off, he was standing there and must have been at least 20 huge dildos under the bed and #X200B. This one time I was delivering a stove. After pulling the old one out of the spot, I have to tip it back to put my dolly underneath it. After tipping it back, a gallon of old nasty oil spilled out onto the floor. Over many years of oil leaking into the bottom drawer without cleaning it, and #X200B. A lot of women answer the door with no pants on and #X200B. One time a guy's house caught on fire from the basement. After delivering over 10K of new furniture, we were cleaning up the garbage, and a lot of smoke came from the stairs. I was delivering Chinese in high school, and there was this one weird guy that would always order sweet and sour chicken minus the chicken. Dude just wanted the bell peppers and pineapple stuff coated in sweet and sour sauce. And when you got there, he was always in his underwear and made you wait while he counted out exact change and payment from a giant Ziploc bag of change. We eventually just blocked his number at the restaurant. Dude was 65 to 75-ish, hairy as hell, and probably about 250 to 300 pounds, coming out in tidy whities. We also had a young woman who would call in fake takeout orders, then never show up to pick them up, and then come in like 20 minutes after the pickup time trying to get free food. We did give out the leftover takeout orders. People prank ordered us at least 2 to 3 times a week to homeless people, but the lady acted like we couldn't tell it was her from her voice. Lol, it was retarded. We blocked her number too.